Jim, you and your wife started a pioneering service learning training department in 1991 for the National Youth Leadership Council. Can you tell us what you saw in the field at the time?
Sure. The metaphor I can take is my wife and I had the great pleasure at that time every summer to lead a 6-day retreat at Wilder Forest in Minnesota, and we'd have people come from all over the country, and that was so special. Many of those people have gone on to be leaders of the field and people we've known so well. But at the end of each of the retreats, we would have each reflection group put on a skit. And one of the first years, they did Jeopardy, where you give the answer and then the person, what's the question? And I will never forget Zach Willett standing up there, and the answer was, nobody knows. And he goes, what is service learning? Okay, and that was really my metaphor for the beginning. This concept was very exciting. If you think it's confused today, and if you interview 5 people, you'll think it's still confused on some level. It was even more so then. My wife and I had gotten to know Jim Kielsmeyer once we came to Minnesota, and we had been doing peer helping training really in very different settings. Even though we were in Palo Alto, a very privileged community, we worked for years with San Francisco, helping set up a program called Peer Resources that was in every school in the district. So we understood training packages and delivery and all those sort of things. So we went to Jim and said, what we really need is a service learning training manual and department. So the idea of a training department was folded into a larger project for the Kellogg Foundation called the Generator Project. And what Pam and I did is we wrote an initial training, and in those days, believe it or not, we did overheads. And, there are all the stories of somebody spills your overheads on the floor in the middle of a training and they're all out and that. So very low tech time and training activities. And because we had peer helping was such an interactive type of approach to learning, it fit very well with the kind of service learning that I think was needed to really engage people at that time. And we started the department. We trained, 10 or 15 different people, some of whom have gone on to do wonderful things. And we traveled to quite a few states and did the initial state training in states like California, Michigan, and other places. We were brought in as a new concept. Over the next several years as we traveled, you could see people slowly start to get traction. What was coincidental about starting the training department is it happened right about the time the first national legislation happened that gave pass-through money for all states to support, in this case, K-12 Learn and Serve that we were working with. And so we would go back to states, and I'll never forget our visit to, I'll call it an upper Midwest state, but we did a 3-day training. It was on the side of one of the Great Lakes. And at the end of it, the people all ran up to the person who was the state lead and said, we have to rewrite our grants. We really didn't understand what we were doing when we wrote those. And so you could see it slowly happened. Through the years, more and more people came into the field. Clearly, people gained the expertise, and there were more and more trainers. But that initial period, I'll never forget, because it really was, there were a lot of aha moments. There were a lot of people who were getting this and getting the sense of possibility of what could happen in education and happen for young people for the first time. So it was a very exciting place to be.